Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on mining filtration solutions, hosted on behalf of Donaldson, the largest provider of unique filtration technologies and high-quality filters and parts. My name is Shannon de Rehove and I'll be assisting the speakers in today's session. Before we get started, please note the chat and the Q&A are available to you. Please post your questions in the Q&A and your comments in the chat. Both the Q&A and the chat are at the bottom of your screen. Please also be aware that we are recording this webinar and will send the recording to you when it's available. Today's panel will explore the latest in mining filtration technology from Donaldson, where you'll discover how advanced filtration technologies provide comprehensive solutions for both above and below ground mining. You'll learn how these innovations reduce maintenance costs and boost equipment uptime, as well as much more. The speakers discussing this topic include Pieterjan, the Marketing Manager for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Donaldson, Ivan Botha, the Product Manager at Donaldson, and Ian du Toit, the Regional and Contracts Manager at Highveld Filters, an official Donaldson distributor. So without further ado, I'll hand over now to our speakers to start the discussion. Pieterjan, you're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pieterjan and will be one of your speakers today for this joint webinar from Donaldson and Highveld Filters. So today we will cover the aspects of how strategic alliances and advanced filtration will optimize and can optimize your operations. Because we all know there are always opportunities to improve. And when it comes to machine performance, we know a few. So with that being said, and also with a short introduction, I'm happy and pleased to introduce you our panelists. So Ivan Botha. Ivan is our Donaldson product manager with a mechanical engineering background, 7 years within the company, and he's responsible for researching and releasing new products, primarily for the mining industry. He will bring you some cases about the performance of our technology and how they are contributing to mining operations in general. I'm also very pleased to have Ian du Toit with us, a valued partner. So Ian has a history of working in mechanical engineering in the industry, and he's extremely knowledgeable in the mining operations management in both open cast and underground mining industries. So, and Ian will inform you about how Highveld Filters is providing that additional value to make your operationals more efficient and giving you that peace of mind. So with Highveld as an experienced partner, you actually can rest assured of the necessary services to keep your operations going. Myself, I'm already about 12 years with Donaldson, and I've seen many great examples of how we can apply the right technologies that significantly contribute to a better operational efficiency and also an overall improved sustainability. It's just in so many cases that an industry or an operation is just not aware. And that is what we want to take today and have the opportunity to make sure that you understand what effective filtration can do for you. So hence, I'm very glad to have you all with us. And with that being said, I will do a further explanation of what we can give you today. So at Donaldson, we know and understand the equipment performance and uptime challenges you're facing. Keeping equipment running is crucial. That's nothing new. So here you see actually a quick and high-level overview of our solutions that we will cover today. From air filtration technology, protecting machines against heavy dust conditions, keeping the air clean, but also to fuel and lube filtration, keeping engine liquids in good condition and protecting critical components. Also, hydraulics play a crucial role in the overall performance of these machines. But our experts will tell you all about these things. Because we cannot tell you everything about our services and technologies, that would simply take too long and won't be too relevant for you at this stage. So let us tell you what matters most. Basically, reducing maintenance cost, increasing the performance and uptime of your mining equipment, and how we are approaching the total cost of ownership improvements. Ivan will also show you some examples here and how Highveld Filters is set up to optimize your operational efficiencies and how their approach brings value to your organization. Basically, from the lab to the mine. So let's get you going on how to improve your total cost of ownership. Something all manufacturers, all suppliers like us promise, but we have the proof. So within this webinar, you will see how technologies contribute to efficient mining operations and deliver that sustainable TCO reductions. We've been in the field of mining for decades. We've supported large and small mining operations across the world, and we know the difference is made at the mine site because all your realities are different. From our lab and R&D centers, in which we develop our technologies, to making them work and add value at your mine site. So we apply that knowledge to support your operations, provide you with relevant insights, and how effective filtration makes a difference and how it advances your business. So our aim is really to provide you with that peace of mind, to provide you with a service you need to keep your operations going. We understand that efficiency and uptime that you need your mine to run at maximum pace to be competitive. So how can we contribute to the long-term and sustainable improvement? Also here, we will make sure that you can rely on partnerships that know how to carry high responsibility and assuring you have the products available at the site and to offer technical support when and wherever you need it. So before I give the word to Ivan, here is what he will cover. How the difference is made in the field, from an easy assessment of your service kit to understanding cleanliness of fuel is crucial to your operations. And yes, as said before, the reality on the field is different. Hence, we believe in a proven by trial approach. So you got to know that we get you covered in any case. When it comes to filtration, we know how to advance your business. So I give now the word to Ivan. Ivan, up to you.
Yeah, thanks, Pieterjan. Good afternoon, everyone that's joined. Yeah, let's run through some examples and just show some of the technologies behind it. Go to the next slide there. So yeah, what we're seeing there is a PC4000 face shovel at one of our end users. And we managed to provide them with a very nice cost saving as well as improvement in ISO cleanliness levels. You can see the values there is translated into dollars. So what you're looking at is about $150,000 a year. That's over the amount of machines they have. So yeah, the initial source pricing, that was from an OE 1,000-hour service kit, and then compared to the Donaldson developed aftermarket kit. I think just worth mentioning is that Donaldson did develop a hydraulic filter specific for this application we didn't have in our range to complete the service kit. And another important point to mention is that the cleanliness levels that were maintained. So we didn't just reduce it for an initial period. The cleanliness levels were maintained. And yeah, there's obviously a lot of other spin-off benefits that we didn't measure, and that's like your machine uptime for productivity and reduced OPEX. Next slide, Pieterjan. And then just going into a bit of fuel management. So looking at fuel management, Donaldson sort of splits it into two categories. We've got stationary and on board. So stationary is more your diesel tanks, fuel farms, dispensing point. And on board, it states basically it's filters fitted to a vehicle. So I think an important point that people don't often think about is that most of your fuel filters are single pass, which means they have one chance to capture contaminants, unlike a circuit like your lube or hydraulic. So your fuel filter does make quite a big impact, and it should be crucial to your considerations. Next slide. So there on the right, the video shows what the effective capturing of contaminants of our blue element. That's a P56866. So that's in a lab condition, obviously. and just how it's managing to show the dirt holding capacity of the unit there. So what happens to your diesel when it's stored in storage tanks over time? A lot of time you start getting separation, your water forms at the bottom, and then in between your water and diesel layer, you start getting microbial growth, which is a very bad thing to start happening. And then from there, as it stands, you start getting your sludge formation, and all your sludge and things start sitting at the bottom. And as we know that in a diesel tank, your normal takeoff point for dispensing is at the bottom. So those lovely stuff that's been accumulated there, that's all going to go straight into your equipment. Next slide. So we have a philosophy for when it comes to bulk fuel management, and that's clean, protect, and polish. So you clean your incoming fuel, normally through a high volume coalescing filter and then a particulate filter. For protect, storing is in a controlled environment. So that's where we generally recommend the Donaldson trap breathers. They make use of a thermal reactive media, which keeps your diesel dry, it keeps the moisture out. Also, if there's moisture in the tank, if you do fit a trap breather, it will sort that out. Diesel tanks breathe. A lot of people don't know perhaps, but they expand and they contract with temperature. And as such, then they need protection from the elements. So most bulk containers, if you go to a site, be it a contractor site or so, they'll use just a little shower head there. And yeah, that helps absolutely nothing at all. On the polish side, so that's cleaning the diesel before dispensing it into the equipment. So there we've got high efficiency filtration, and that reduces your ISO cleanliness quite drastically. And that in turn improves your total cost of ownership. And from there on, we'll see a bit later on, there's a big example on how fuel management affects your cost. The bottom picture there shows our X-Max manifold fitted with our blue spin-on filters. That was the one in the video we saw just on the previous slide. And we recently also launched another manifold with the capability to take the Duramax cans, which is the orange ones, for those who are familiar with our product. Just be aware that there's different threads on the elements, so they're not interchangeable. So you need to fit the correct manifold to your application, or the desired results that you wish to achieve. Next slide. All right, so yeah, this is quite a big case study, and it's from Australia, from our counterparts over there. So they share very similar operating conditions as in Africa. So the site had about 50 trucks. The injectors, any site injector should be lasting on those old trucks about 22,000 hours. They were experiencing 11,000 hours. So if you start looking at how much time the equipment runs, the fuel it burns per day. So big mine site, relatively big, that's about 71 million liters per year. Another problem that they had was on the G-rotor pump on the engine. So your G-rotor pump feeds your high pressure pump. They had premature failures there, and the cost of a new pump, G-rotor pump, there was about 60,000 Australian dollars. And you see the high cost associated with the engine rebuild, the injector parts. So you've got a 16-cylinder engine at $6,000 a pop. So that's quite a bit of unplanned expenditure. If you have, if you're supposed to achieve 22,000 hours, you're only getting 11,000. And then your fuel filter change out is about 831. So I think just percentage-wise, it shows your filter is probably your cheapest way to fix something, if you just look at that. Next slide. So what was the impacts of their poor fuel filtration that they were seeing there? So the ejector life were half of what it should be. So and that's just now over a year. On the right-hand side, the totals that you're seeing there, that's the cost of the yearly expenditure. So you will pay for clean fuel one point or another. So you're either going to pay for it at your bulk or before onboarding, like your bulk storage and your onboard filtration, or you're going to have to pay for it in replacement parts and maintenance. So as we're seeing there, the the injector life was half short, the short filter life. So they were getting actually less than 500 hours out of the filters, and they wanted to achieve about 1,000. The premature gerotor pump failures, which they were having, they were experiencing 10 a year. So yeah, that's $600,000 a year. The unscheduled maintenance, low power events. So low power events were about 9 a year. And the premature engine rebuilds, that's about 1 a year. Those are quite expensive. It's not just the cost of that. It's the cost of losing the equipment out of production and operation. Higher soot index, so because your fuel isn't burning the way it should, you're burning a lot more. There's a lot more soot coming out of it. A lot of that soot goes into your filters again. So, if there's bypass, it depends. It can be on the rings, on the piston. It can be via the exhaust into the air intake system. So, yeah, the soot comes into play. And then reduced fuel burn. It's probably a bit hard to measure, but if your fuel isn't clean as it should be, if you're spending 2% more, or you're consuming 2% more fuel per annum than you would have versus clean fuels that you had, clean and dry fuel, then that's quite a big number, considering your initial consumption was about 71 million liters of diesel a year. So 2% makes a massive difference. So by improving your maintenance practices, that may result in that saving that you're seeing there of about $6.8 million. So that's over a year period, and that's considering the failures that they were experiencing on that side. But like we said, the hard thing to measure and to quantify is the labor and the downtime, and not being able to sweat your asset properly. Next slide. So we did partner with our distributor for this end user. We always do. We don't go directly to end users and just fit our stuff as a Donaldson as a company. We do work through our authorized distribution channels. So we installed the filters on the engine and compared it to the competitor or the OEM parts. So in brief, what happened with this specific application, the secondary filters were blocking quickly. The fuel system pressurized, the gerotor pump was bypassing, it was overheating, so excessive heat caused the seals to fail, and yeah, that just destroyed the gerotor pump. Ultimately, the competitor inner pack, media packs were collapsing, and that's allowed the stop contaminant downstream, causing additional failures as well. Next slide. Thank you. So that was an in-field study in the laboratory. Our numbers compare very nicely as well. So I think what's very important from this slide is to show that we don't compromise on the capacity, the dirt holding capacity, and we still run 4 times cleaner fuel results compared to our closest competitor. What's important to note is that it's over the life of the filter. We aren't selecting the initial point that favors our cause. A lot of competitors will select certain info that they like to show you. They'll show over the whole life of this element, you are protected and you are covered. So yeah, 4 times cleaner fuel, and it doesn't cost 4 times the price of the competitor. Also very important to note. Next slide. So this mining company, they tried our filters in good faith. That's the ones that we showed the pictures there. The gerotor pumps failures were costing them a lot. The part that we fitted, the DBF part number there, stopped all gerotor pump premature failures, and it extended their service intervals from 500 to 1,250. So that they were struggling, like we said, to get you 500 hours. They were reaching about 490 before the filters collapsed. And then after the fitment, they were able to achieve about 1,250 hours. So that improved the customer's short and long-term operations. And yeah, all the failures have stopped since then. Next slide. Yep. So yeah, just some interesting facts, to keep in the back of your mind, or something that you don't always understand or about, to just help paint the picture. So how much air does a a big haul truck use or consume or burn. So on average, it's about 20,000 liters of air for each liter of diesel that it sucks. So it sucks about 20,000 liters of air for every liter of diesel that you burn. Obviously, this varies from engine to engine model, but most common on new models consume between 12 and 20,000 liters. So when you're considering your ambient dust that's just hanging in the air across the mine site, just imagine that engine may consume about 100 million liters of air a day, if it burns between 4,000, 5,000 liters of diesel a day. And that presents a serious challenge that, and that demands exceptional performance and quality out of your filter. Applications such as drill rigs, that's probably the worst that we see in the industry, because a drill rig is stationary. It just stands still and the dust is creating. Other equipments like loaders, graders, excavators also have extreme environments, perhaps a bit more compared to an haul truck, but definitely they all experience extreme environments in which they operate. So yeah, we need the air filter to protect the engine from airborne contamination. I mean, dust is the obvious one, but also so is smoke, soot. Soot is, I think, probably a bit more applicable in your underground environment. So where your mines, you've got a confined space, your exhaust fumes aren't really, they've got ventilations in the shafts, obviously, but the soot is still a big problem, because a lot of the times with other equipment is designed, your intake is very close to your exhaust. So, we had to come up with a solution for that. And then also carbon, it's supposed to keep out carbon, rain, snow, pollen, range of other contaminants. And according to the Cummins company, it states that on average, it takes approximately 1 gram of dust per horsepower of a diesel engine to destroy it. Meaning that if you had a 500 horsepower engine, it would take about 0.5 kilogram of dust over its lifetime. And that's all that's required to damage it. So I think the critical point is that, the dust that can be let through a media or enters the housing and clean the air out during the routine services. But when you do your routine services during maintenance, the amount of dust that can fall in, that's very limited. Next slide. Thank you. So just also to show again a small difference, or the way we show it, is the efficiency. Rating of an air filter makes a big difference on the amount of dust it can bypass to the engine. So these tubes or vials that you're seeing there, for every 1 kilogram of dust that goes into the filter, that vial shows you how much dust bypass on the different efficiency levels. Notice the big difference between the 99 and the 99.9. So that's the amount of dust that you will see on the clean side of your air filter. And just also worth mentioning is that Donaldson publishes their efficiencies, whereas competitors are very seldom selective, in what they make available to you. Whereas we will, even if you go onto our webpage on our toolbox, you can see the efficiency, and you can make your call from there. Next slide. So engineered for harsh environments. So let's just take a look at how do we solve these issues. Onto the next slide, Pieterjan. So cellulose air filters is the least efficient filter that we know. Some dust bypasses straight through to your engine from the word go due to the initial inefficiency, and other dust becomes trapped into the fibers, increasing the restriction and improving the efficiency of the filter. It progressively builds up dust from inside until it blocks, and then you have to throw it away. And then that's on the left-hand side. So if you look there, the big black circles, that symbolizes your cellulose fibers, with the dust particles ingressing in between the cellulose media. And that's what causes your restriction. And that as it builds up, it prevents less and less dust from passing through until it builds up so much that you have to throw it away. On the right-hand side, we've got our ultra-web media. So it's got a nanofiber layer on it. So it still has a cellulose substrate, but it's got a very fine spiderweb layer on top of it. which still allows some dust to penetrate into the cellulose. But from the first minute it's fitted, it provides your engine with cleaner air, improving the engine life and reducing the contaminant ingress. Because of the bulk dust layer forming on the top of the nanofiber layer, that if you're housing a setup correctly, when the engine backs off, so when you decelerate or due to vibration, a lot of that dust that's built up on the outside, that dust cake will fall off, and providing you with a longer service life. So your restriction stays longer than that of a cellulose filter, and often reducing your fuel burn. So in some vehicle reports, there's also increase of power, reduced soot indexes in the oils are reported. And then also we've seen lower engine temperatures, meaning that your exhaust gases that's emitted also are coming out a bit lower. And we've also done some trials recently where we've seen that the nanofiber layer has got some rigidity to it in underground humid environments. Next slide. So what does the extra 9 mean? The difference between 99 and 99.99. So that's comparing. So the first one, the 99.99 in the middle, that's the Donaldson Ultra Web, and then we've got Ultra Web HD, which is the most recent one, and that's in high flow engines, and you can see how little dust it lets through. So on the HD, it lets through 0.01 grams, and that's compared to 1 kilogram of dust that's been fed into that machine. So that's very close to an absolute filter rating. Just a few or a handful of benefits of the Ultra Web: reduce your soot index, reduce silica readings in your oil. Just a asterisk there, note that that silica relates to sand. So if there's any other forms of silica within your internal combustion engine, like sealant, it's obviously not going to stop that. That refers to dirt and dust. You've got to reduce fuel burn, reduce your fuel burn, increase your element life, increase your engine life, and increase your power output. We do see that quite frequently when we put them on the dyno, that there is a significant increase just by changing an element, which you wouldn't think was possible. Comparing the Ultra Web HD to the regular Ultra Web, what we're seeing there is that the Ultra Web HD is 7.5 times more efficient, so it allows 7.5 times less dust through. And then comparing it to cellulose media, it's 40 times more efficient, which means 40 times less the amount of dust gets passed through. Yeah, sorry, and assuming that everything's correct, that your blue element will provide you with a longer element life. The life extension would vary from site to site and application to application. And I think it brings you to the point where you should know that you should know the dust you're operating in. Dust from, let's say, somewhere in the Northern Cape isn't exactly the same as the dust in an underground coal mine. So know your dust, know your operations, and yeah, we can help you figure out what's best for you. Next slide. Thank you. So yeah, also was a haul truck challenge, a mining truck. So they also had an issue on the air cleaners. So they had frequent maintenance. They had to change it out on 1,000 hours. The filters were cleaned every 500 hours, and they had high machine downtime. I just want to say from this case study, because this is we picked it up. So Donaldson, South Africa, we don't condone cleaning of filters. It's being penny wise, pound foolish. Your dirt is embedded in the media, so you can't see if it's clean. And using a compressor, you blow holes in your media. You're transferring your dirt from the dirty side of the element to the clean side of the element. And you know, if I haven't seen it done with water or soap, but you know, water and paper, they don't mix well together. So yeah, you do change your fiber structure there. And your warranty will be voided if you know if you put in a claim or something like that. So yeah, don't wash your filters, please. Next slide. Okay. So the solution for that end user, what we did is we provided them with the blue elements, the nanofiber. So that's just the standard ultra web, the 99.99% efficiency, and extended the vac valves. So the target service life was, and that we achieved, was 205,000 hours. And so that's 2.5 times the element life. So that's 5 times less service that they have to perform in a year. Next slide. Just trying to make you more aware of some of the applications. So we have premium products in each group. They cover about 6,000 different applications. On the left-hand side, there is an example from a coal mine with a big haul truck. So they had change outs on every 4,000 hours, but worth mentioning, at every 2,000 hours, they had to replace the left-hand side of the haul truck's elements. And that's because of oncoming traffic, how they were traveling. So I'll see the comments just a bit later. And so at 2,000 hours, the left-hand side had to be changed. So it's either your traffic or your loading point, how you load your trucks. You'll normally see that one side will gets clocked up quicker. So there we change it with our ultra web media. And yeah, we showed a nice cost saving there of 53%, and also the efficiency increased. So that trial we ran to 6,277 hours with the blue elements. So it was a nice considerable extension over the 4,000 what they were getting. On the right is the articulated truck. So that's on the engine lube filter, where we changed the Donaldson element out with our blue version, with a Syntec version. And yeah, the services there were increased, or this was able to reach 1,100 hours. So if you look at the cost of your filter versus at what time you have to change it out, it works you out a lot cheaper to go for the premium product, keeping in mind that you have to service on restriction. We always advise servicing on restriction, so if you've got the right equipment in place. And like I said, we've got different technologies. For air, we've got Donaldson Ultra Web. For lubrication systems on your engine, it's Syntec. For fuel, it's Syntec XP. And for our hydraulic range, our latest media technology is Alpha Web, which caters a lot for cyclic flow in hydraulic systems. So where every filter up till now has been tested for a constant flow, cyclic flow, which is real world conditions. We'll see that coming into play a lot quicker in the future. So yeah, I think that's what I've got. Pieterjan, next slide. Right, yeah, so just think about beyond the machine, total cost of ownership. It's not just the filter you're replacing. You're not just putting in fuel. It really is a total mindset that needs to involve and encumber you. And I understand it won't be for everyone. A lot of people will have buyers and procurement people making the calls, but if you're not going to drive it, then you're going to see a higher cost operating expense versus some of the examples we've seen now. And a lot of these mines, and actually all of them, they don't want to share these results and these case studies because they believe they invested in it. They took a leap of faith. And the advantage they're getting is their competitive advantage. So you'll see on none of these, we were able to say which sites they will perform on because the end users don't want to make it. It shouldn't be a secret, but they don't want to make it, public knowledge. And unfortunately, we don't have any control over that. It is their equipment. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Pieterjan.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ivan and Pieterjan. Yeah, as you can see, some good technology that is used, and as a Donaldson distributor, Highveld Filters does use that technology, and we also use the premium products a lot in our operations where we help customers. So today I will just discuss some TCO, how we utilize this technology in practice. But let me give you an overview of Highveld Filters first. As can be seen, we were established a long time ago, in fact, in 1978. and we have been a Donaldson distributor from the outset in that period. We are a level 1 triple BE company and also black female-owned company as well. So our leading Donaldson distributor, as I said, and we're situated in the coal fields with a dedicated team of people operating in both the engine and hydraulic categories. Obviously, hydraulic a lot in the underground mining business as well. So we have relationships with most of the major mining companies that operate in both the open cast and underground operations, or a combination of both of these. And we also operate with a lot of the mining companies that do contract mining for these major companies as well. So we have a large customer base that we operate within our region. So the next one, Pieterjan, thank you. So the markets that we participate in, mostly the markets mentioned there, but our main focus remains in the mining business, in both the open cast and underground mining, where we operate with a continuous mining, cars, shuttle cars, roof bolters, etc. And we also classify the construction equipment into those categories because a lot of that construction equipment operates in that period. We also operate in the agriculture, paper and pulp, and industrial markets as well. Next slide, please, Pieterjan. So our footprint, as we can see, it stretches over a vast area of the Mpumalanga region, with and that is where the coal mining industry is operated. Our head office is situated in Emalahleni, or Witbank as everybody knows it, with branches in Middelburg, Secunda, Ermelo and Delmas. And those branches operate mostly or service the coal mining industry. So we are very close to our customer base in those regions. And between those branches, we supply our stock. We keep stock at all the branches, which we transfer between the customers and make sure that we can service our customers quite reliably. So we also manage a number of vendor management sites. So where we have either store facilities on these sites with inventory that we own, but we manage it on the customer's behalf. And this facilitates the maintenance requirements or service programs that the customers have. But I will touch on that subject more during the presentation as well. So on the next slide, our capabilities. So our current capabilities are as follows, but we do not limit ourselves to this. So we will customize our offering based on customer requirements as well. So we develop kits for both the underground and open cast mining services. So this is normally based on the customer maintenance philosophy. As each customer has their own philosophy, you might have different operations in the same group that have a different service philosophy, but some will have a requirement for kits, while others will have a preference to supply loose filters, and they do their maintenance based on that. So we do TCO programs, the total cost of ownership, as Ivan explained. So mostly on the primary production equipment, but that's also based on customer service philosophy, and it's also the utilization of hybrid kits, which I will also touch on a bit later as well. The vendor management inventory, as I say, that we do, as well as the supply of oil and lubricants in that systems as well. We also do some filtration enhancements where our equipment first fit does not always meet the requirements of operating in some of the extreme operating conditions that we have in this African environment. So a good example is fitting pre-cleaners as well as exhaust ejectors to ensure air systems operate adequately. So just taking in mind that the dust loading in the African environment is 7 times higher than it is in a European or even an Asian environment. So the first fit is not always necessarily the best fit for that equipment, and you need to do some changes or modifications to ensure that the equipment is protected adequately. So we also do some contamination control programs where we take responsibility for customers' contaminated fluids, and we supply filtration solutions to ensure that the cleanliness levels are kept on that as well. And then lastly, we also do retrofits on equipment where we replace OEM filtration and improve that filtration and make sure that the systems operate properly. And that is mostly on the air as well as on the hydraulic and fuel systems as well for the customers, as Ivan illustrated earlier as well. Next slide, please, Pieterjan. Yeah, so, yeah, continue, please. So really, what is a cost of total cost of ownership? Obviously, that's a cost associated with that equipment, where you can calculate as well. So that calculated is the purchasing price of the equipment, obviously putting the equipment into service. Remember, some of that equipment is fairly large. It's got to be transported in pieces and then putting it into service. So that is calculated in it. The cost of maintenance and the cost of spares and consumables, which will be included in there as well, and the overall utilization of that equipment, that can be calculated as well. So a lot of mines will check the utilization at the end of the month and calculate how much production they've had out of it. And obviously at the end of it, once that equipment is used up, the retirement of that equipment, you know what the cost is if you're going to sell it off or if it needs to be scrapped, etc. So that can be calculated. What cannot be calculated in that is standing time. Say, how many times have you waited outside a workshop and the equipment is standing, it doesn't operate, and it's time that you cannot calculate, and the loss of production, also difficult to calculate. And then consequential losses of that. So what are the consequential losses? It's loss of profit, etc., which very seldom can be calculated by the customers. Next slide, please. Yeah. So who can use total cost of ownership? Okay. So the total cost of who can use that? That is normally customers, end users wishing to extend their service intervals. A lot of people that want to extend it don't always know that they can extend it, and they don't understand the programs as well. So we also have the fact that there's different grades of filtration, as Ivan explained earlier. So standard filtration on there will obviously meet the OEM specifications, or in certain instances, this is better than OEM specifications as well. So when you go onto an endurance filtration program, understand there's different types of media, as Ivan explained there, and these are available for customers to utilize. So understanding these differences makes the decision making a lot easier for that end user. And the end user cannot ever not just change from a standard filtration program onto an endurance program without getting the basics right. So if you are going to change at the standard service intervals of 250 hours, etc., you can remain on a standard media program, as you will be wasting your money going onto the endurance program. You might get better filtration, but you are actually wasting some money in instances like that. So the basics here is changing that air filtration based on restriction methods. So putting restriction gauges across the equipment and making sure that you check that and make sure that your intake systems are not blocked. And there's also a requirement on the oil samples that you are taking the oil samples. And most importantly, when you get those reports back on the oil samples, is that they are checked, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen samples or the reports coming back and they just put on somebody's desk. Nobody checks them, or in a lot of instances, a lot of people don't understand the reports that come back and what the contents of it is. So that they just left. And if there's a failure and the equipment seizes or breaks, then you can look at the service reports or the contamination reports, and you find that there was a failure 2 reports ago, but nobody bothered to even look at that as well. So also understanding the source of that contamination. A good example is at fuel dispensing stations. How many times do you see that fuel nozzle, somebody's filled it up, just drop the filling nozzle onto the ground, picks up dust, and people put it into the next vehicle, filling up the tanks as well. And oil, if oil is dispensed as well, you see they've used contaminated containers which contain other oils, and the oils are mixed, and they fill up their vehicles with oil in that contaminated container. So if we look at the challenges of the endurance programs, yeah, I think one of the big myths is that OEM parts are better than aftermarket parts, or as a lot of people call aftermarket parts, pirate parts. Look, obviously there are some bad products in the market, but not all aftermarket parts are equal. Whereas Donaldson is classified as an OPM or original parts manufacturer. So they manufacture parts for the OEMs, and your aftermarket parts are equivalent, or in some instances even better than that. So where customers bring in cost reduction programs, you'll see that they compare, and once they're on an endurance program, they get somebody, a competitor or somebody in, and they start cross-referencing filters, checking that filter, and then they cross-reference the endurance filter to lower grade filtration. And because of the price, they reduce those programs, and your endurance program disappears down the chute. Exactly the same with changes of personnel, where people have a preference for a different company. They're already running a decent endurance program, and they change from that as well onto standard product, and that endurance program is not utilized any longer. We're also finding a lot in the market lately is the utilization of third-party purchasing companies. So these third-party purchasing companies, their mandate is to reduce the overall purchasing budget. And exactly the same happens where they look at cost and nothing else, because they have a minimal understanding that the cheapest is not always the best, but they will supply the cheapest because that is their mandate, and they get paid to do that as well. And in a lot of instances, you have an unalignment of KPIs between the production, maintenance, and purchasing people. So each have their own KPIs. These differ, and they don't talk to each other, and these programs disappear. They do not work effectively at all. So what do we do on TCO improvement? Firstly, surveys to equipment. We obviously have to look at equipment. You find pieces of equipment, exactly the same models, purchased 2 or 3 months apart, and the filtration on that differs because the OEM has decided to change filtration as well, or in some instances where equipment was brought in from other operations, filtration is different. You need to survey that equipment to make sure that what you're supplying is 100% correct. Also build the custom kits for HME construction and underground mining equipment. So most of these kits, 80% of those kits will contain Donaldson kits, Donaldson products, including the seals and O-rings, etc., either for full endurance programs. Some of them will have standard cellulose media, obviously dependent on the customer's requirements, or it could be a combination of both. So a real hybrid kit as well. And then there's some hybrid kits that contain both Donaldson as well as OEM filters. Obviously, some customers have warranties, that they want to keep in place. So they want to keep the OEM, especially fuel filters, and customers have a preference for some OEM filters as part of the machine, but quite happy to change to Donaldson in others, but some of the filters will be both. So really a hybrid portion of that. So vendor management inventory, I've spoken about that, where we do programs like that. We have, as I said, a number of sites where we do the filters, the lubes, hydraulic fluids on the sites, and we do the on-site condition monitoring. So we make sure that the lubes have correct filtration at dispensing. We also do the oil sampling for the customer, make sure that when the reports come back that they understand what the reports contain, and make sure that that equipment is in optimal operation. If we find any problems on that report, which is obviously a very important part of it, that the customer understands it and that we can intervene in those cases and make sure that the equipment continues operating correctly. And then obviously a lot of on the underground mining contamination control programs, we do that oil sampling, that oil and lube reporting analysis. We also do the diagnostic reports for the customers. So at the moment, we're working with a partner, but in future we will establish our own laboratories. The plan is during the next 12 months that we will establish laboratories in most of our operations where we have the larger customers operating, and we will do our own value-added reports and sampling, etc. So a big investment into the laboratory side. And also on some of the sites, we will also put laboratories as part of that vendor management system to make sure that the machines are operating optimally. And I think that is me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, for that valuable contribution. So this brings us to the last part of the webinar. And basically it's about the choices. So your choice for peace of mind when it comes to improving operational efficiency and how to choose for quality in all forms, not only products, technology, but also in service and support you can get to reach your improvement targets, as being explained by Ivan and Ian in greater detail. Basically, it's very straightforward how to get started. So it's never a quick fix. You all know that. It's never a quick fix when it comes to sustainable improvements. So you have seen the examples of how we take a pragmatic approach, as we understand that the phased method is always better. Hence, we start always with the validation phase, in which we are going to understand your realities better, with getting a clear view on your operations, your maintenance, your filtration realities, as we can call them. And here we validate and consolidate your needs. You assess your situation based on data, because the proof is in the data. And there is where we can see how value can be added. So in that second phase, basically the second phase is based upon data points. It's to implement our plan for improvement. And these can be trials, as mentioned. But it can also start with an in-depth assessment of your equipment, and where we just look at the overall cleanliness and present you solutions on how to improve these. And then the third phase, is where we're taking the responsibility to provide you with that peace of mind. So by monitoring and reporting on the progress made and how these enhancements are actually providing you with value that we are offering. Hereby, and based upon data, we will always look for those continuous improvements. So, but it doesn't stop with that. So based upon your needs and on-site realities, we do offer that additional service and support, as also mentioned by Ivan and Ian. So from that commercial support can be an ERP integration or can be to the on-site stock holding in collaboration with distribution partners. So whenever service is required, we'll assure our experts are there to support. As you can see, from monthly assessment meetings to understanding planning and supply chain requirements, to also technical support, where, getting insights in how, the applied improvements are truly having an effect. And it's important, seeing those improved cleanliness levels, or keep monitoring on how we further develop maintenance programs, methods, things like that. So that was in general about how our services are towards the mining industry. And just a few more slides about Donaldson. So just to frame our company and inform you how and who we are actually. Basically, Donaldson, our company, our story is driven by one purpose. So advancing filtration for a clean world. This mission goes beyond the business. It's really about creating a kind of a legacy, a positive impact on the environment and society. So every product that we develop and every innovation we introduce is a step towards, for us and in total, a cleaner, more sustainable future. It's what filtration is all about, basically. So, and we are around already for 105 years. And every day we continue to invest in that purpose. And it states by the numbers. So numbers tell the story of growth and impact and commitment. So basically, we are a $3.4 billion company, and we have over 2,800 patents. That means in filtration, in how we are, advancing our filtration for a cleaner world. So making sure that we have a global presence, over 80 locations. We continue to invest every day and yearly about 18 million in R&D. And that shows really that we're pushing every day again those boundaries of filtration technology. As you can see, our global footprint is actually a testament to our reach and adaptability. We're not just present worldwide. So what we really strive for is to resonate with local communities, understanding and addressing their specific needs. This global local approach has been key to our success and the relevance, that's important, the relevance across different markets. So, and we have, of course, strategically implemented manufacturing and distribution centers to allow us to move fast, to be agile, to deliver, the quality products in each corner of the world. And of course, cannot do this alone. We're backed up by a vast distribution network that are very close to where our customers need us. And just about the last slide, but definitely very important to us, sustainability is at the heart of our narrative. It's about, the commitment to a future where filtration technology plays a role in preserving the planet. Our solutions are not just meeting those needs, they are really foreseeing and shaping a sustainable future. So our sustainability strategy, Filtration for a Thriving Future, is grounded on our purpose. Our purpose, advancing filtration for a cleaner world. So this strategy really represents the choices made to ensure products and practices have a positive impact and create a thriving future for people and the planet. So this was the webinar for now, and we are open for Q&A. So Renilde, if you can, or Renette can, if you can assist us on that, that would be appreciated.
Certainly. Pieterjan, I'll just go through the questions that have come through. We've got 5 of them so far. I'll just start at the top. So whoever is the right person to answer can just go ahead with that. We've got a question from Charles, and he asks, does Donaldson have any products available to remove water from oils? He says that would include free, dissolved, as well as emulsified water.
Yes, we do. Emulsified water becomes a bit tricky. Then you need to do some capital investment, and that's through our sister company, Donaldson Hypro. So they got big vacuum dehydrators. But yeah, that's something that if you want to reach out afterwards, we can put you in touch there with the right people.
Great. I have shared Donaldson's website address in the chat, and it will also be in follow-up email. So if anybody would like to contact you, they can do that. The next question also relates to water, and they're asking, it's Maredi, and he or she asks, do the filters work on water treatment plants? I'm not sure if that's a similar answer to before.
No. So no, we don't do any water filtration products as such. So no, we don't offer anything for water treatment plants.
The next question comes from Irvin Lelai, and they ask, do you have filters that are not for mining trucks?
Yeah, the examples we shown here was basically around the audience and the structure for the mining community. So yes, we are very big in agriculture, on-road, construction. So just the examples was catered for this specific webinar. So yeah, there's definitely other filters. We have over 10,000 individual items, and I can't even think of the specific number of applications, but it's a lot. So yeah, we're basically in every market.
All right. Then Stephen asked on a technical level to please elaborate how the DBF 5782 eliminated gerotor failure on the QSK 60 MCRS engines, considering these failures were due to a combination of issues both internally on their design and external or their filtration motivated. I think, Ivan, you did respond to him. Would you like to give some feedback on that?
No, I think it's fine. If there's anything else from Stephen on that, you can ask. But yeah, it's like I said, it's probably the secondary filters that were blocking up too quickly, and yeah, the bypassing there.
All right. And then the final question comes from Belinda. She just wants to know if you outsource any of your work for subcontracting. I'm not sure if maybe this is something to discuss now. Otherwise, I can just get her to be in touch with you afterwards, and you can reach out that way.
Yeah. I think she can contact Pieterjan.
That's perfect. Thanks, Belinda. If you would like to do that, then you can reach Donaldson on their website, and we'll also share some information after that. And those are all the questions that have come through for now. Pieterjan or Ian or Ivan, if you've got any follow-up comments, then you're more than welcome to do that before we close off.
Now, I just saw there was one comment or question in the chat asking about if we recycle our products or they get binned by the customer. The answer at this point is no. We are doing a lot of work around sustainability to see what's the best way to dispose of used filters. Obviously, the tricky one is your liquid filters. That's your media is impregnated with the oil. So for now, it looks like the best way is incineration. But now we're looking, we're not looking to do it. We're looking at what technologies are there, and to guide our customers as to what is the best way to dispose of it and reduce CO emissions and that type of thing. So we are very involved in that. So yeah, we're not physically doing it, but we are quite involved.
Thank you for that information. Pieterjan, anything from your side?
Nope. Not from my
And
side
Ian?
for the time being.
Nothing from my side. Thank you very much for organizing this. It was great.
Yep.
Thank you very much, everyone, then. Thank you for the questions. And that brings us to the end of the discussion. Thank you very much to Pieterjan Moons, Ivan Botha, and Ian du Toit for their input into the discussion. Thank you also to the attendees for taking the time to join us for this discussion on mining filtration solutions. If you're interested in hearing more about Donaldson, please visit their website at www.donaldson.com. For over 100 years, Donaldson has been solving customers' complex filtration needs and is today one of the largest providers of unique filtration technologies and high-quality filters and parts. The recording of today's webinar will be made available to all stakeholders, and if you have any additional questions, please be in touch. You can reach us at shannon@creamermedia.co.za. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and goodbye.